Well, after coming back from that show, I saw a few things there that I think I want to do to the truck. And well, one of them was a sun visor. And I've actually had it written down here. Screen visor, sun visor, same thing. I think I'm going to make one. Well, the first thing to do as usual is make a cardboard template. And this is what I've come up with here. So this is going to sit something like this and come around to the corners like this. Let's go make it out of some steel. So out of that template, I've cut up an old hood I had lying around here. I've made it out of 2 pieces, and right now I'm in the process of welding it up through the middle. Well, with that all welded up, let's go chuck it on the truck and see what else I've got to do. So the next step was to curve these ends. And as you can see, I've taken the mid gas off and I'm starting to bend it around that. It's kind of the right shape, but I'll make it work. This side didn't turn out the best, but I'll keep going and I'll get these curves right. So I've got that curve somewhat right, but I think this whole piece here is just all in the way. So I'm going to cut this off around here and see if I can't make it fit a little bit better. I'm starting to think maybe what I need to do is make a frame first and then skin the frame. Well, this is what it's looking like now. The ends are all cut. I've got a bit of a hiccup here where there's been a lot of warpage when I've welded it up. I was careful, but maybe it's just some really thin steel. I mean, it's off a late model Japanese car or something. I was just having a lot of trouble. Anyway, I'm going to go throw it back on the truck again, see if I've got the shape right at least. And like I said, maybe I've got to make a frame that goes all the way around it out of some round bar, just some really thin stuff. See if I can't make it sit on there and maybe it'll straighten up, or maybe this is all useless and I'll have to make another one. Let's go and have a look. So this is what it's kind of looking like. Yeah, I don't think it's right. It's definitely not right. We've got a lot of warpage going along here. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I think tomorrow what I'll do, I'll get some round bar, and I know I've got some hidden away somewhere, and make a frame up first and see if we can't skin a frame. So as I said last night, you know, I think the best thing to do was to actually make a frame. And I've got my friend over here, Scotty. You've all met him before, and he's making it for me because I just what would you call it? Lost my last night and decided I couldn't do it anymore.
Had a girly attack.
And I gave Scott a call. I said, "You want to come over and give me a hand with this? You know, something so simple wasn't quite that simple." Well, we're actually getting somewhere. We've got a frame done. Now we're just going to put some bits in the middle of this and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, after most of the day bending and welding and bending and welding, this is what we've come up with. And it goes on the truck like this. Going to sit somewhere there and it'll sit off the roof a little bit. I'll have some spaces. I've got to figure out how to actually bolt this thing on. I'm going to skin it and then we'll figure it out from there. So here's another hood. Went to my local panel beaters. Good friend of mine. He just gave me another one. It's got a little bit of damage on the side here, but I don't need any of that. Hopefully I can get this right the second time. So here's one piece cut out, and I've cut it out a little bit bigger. I'm not going to cut the second one out just as yet. I'm going to try and fit it to the frame that I've built before getting on to the next pieces. So right now, I'm just trying to make this piece of metal fit the frame here. And what I've decided to do first, or give it a go, and I'm glad I cut it a lot bigger, was to just bend this front around. And I just did that with a hammer and a pair of pliers there just over my wooden bench. And that's what we have here. So I'm going to put some more vice grips here and see if it's going to sit right. Now the beauty of also the way I've cut this on the hood here is I've utilized the natural bend, or well, the factory bend of the hood, and it's actually shaping quite well to our form that we've made here. So just with the hammer there, I've bent this around just that little bit more, and that's fitting quite well. I'm pretty happy that I haven't really done any damage to the top here. I've got to get all this paint off though. So I'll get a wire wheel on a drill and I'll see what I can get off. Well, there's enough paint off that edge there. It's good enough there and enough off so that I can actually weld that to the frame. I think what I'm going to do first, while I've got all this clamped together, is draw a line on the back of here, cut this back a bit and bend this as well. That way all I'll have to do is do a few welds on the inside, not have to worry about buckling it accidentally. Then of course I'll cut down this edge, cut down this edge and make that section. Then I'll make the two corner sections, and yeah, they will have to be welded, but not welded together. I'm thinking I'm going to cut them a little bit short and weld them to the frame, and maybe even do the same thing, just put a few welds on it. Then what I'll do is, depending on how well it dresses up, I might just have to put a little bit of Nicky in there and sand it all back, see how it looks. Okay, so I've trimmed this off, and now I'm just going to start bending it again like I did the front one. Now I'm definitely no panel beater, and I might even be just doing this all wrong. But that front bit worked for me, so I'm going to keep going. I'm just bending this the tiniest bit at a time. And like I said, there's probably a better way to do this. And I've got no formal training in any of this, so I'm just figuring it out as I go. So once I make it all the way along here, I'll start from the middle again, go back out, come back this way again, and just keep coming up until I've kind of got it around about 90 degrees. Then I'm going to pop it back on that frame there and clamp it all up, and I'll see if I can just use the hammer and just hammer it back around. So it's been about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm just on the last bit here of just bending it up here. I didn't bore you with any of it. I only hope that I've bent it close enough to that line. I mean, if it's not, I'm sure I can just bend it with a hammer. Okay. So this is my plan. Just put this here, clamp this on here. And as you can see, I'm pretty close to here. I reckon it's going to work okay. I'm quite happy I've done it this way. And I have to admit, this wasn't my idea. You would have seen Scotty on some of my other videos, and this earlier in this video. This was his idea. He's not here, he's not helping me. He's off visiting his father today. So I'll get all these clamps on and I'll start doing some bashing with a hammer. As you can see there, that's actually forming quite well. Really happy with the way that's turning out. I just got to maybe put some clamps here, put some clamps here, and belt it in a little bit more. I think think I've got to use these littler ones. Only because they're shaped differently. With this here, it doesn't get in the way of this lip, I think. Yeah, I'll just put one over here though, just to hold that. Seems to be working fine. I just got to keep going until it's all done. I won't bore you with this. I'll spend the next 15 minutes or so belting all this around, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. Right, so with that one done, it's all sitting there all by itself, and it's not even welded on. It's just sitting there. It's cooled around there enough just to hold it on. And I've gone and cut another one, ready to get the other side done. Oh, and I want to add that I've left this with a bit of overhang here and a bit of overhang on this side, because I'll get the two panels on. Once it's done, I'll mark it out on the front and I'll cut through both panels at once. Well, I've got this second piece looking pretty good too, and have started rolling it all around. I've still got this little piece here to do, but I figured maybe I should cut this down through here, like I mentioned earlier, before I go too much further. I don't want to be struggling to get it out. So I'm going to cut this now and fish all this piece out. Then I'll continue with the rest of this. So I've cut this piece out here, and it was a little bit of a chore to get out, but I got it out. And every time now that I try and bend these over, this piece is moving slightly. So I'm going to put a couple of little tacks here, maybe put some across the back here too, and maybe even just get a tack on this sheet close to here so that my join doesn't move. I'll get that done now and then move on to bending the rest of this over. So with just a couple of little tacks along here, along the thick parts where I've got braces, I've done it. And I've also put one on this skin that runs here and a little one here. It makes this join beautiful. That is so much better than my first attempt. All right, I've just got to keep going, bend all this around and get this second part finished, and I'll get that tacked on as well. Then I'll start making my little corner pieces here, and also have to come up with some sort of bracket system. I'll have a good think about that before I actually start doing these sections here. Well, so far, so good. So the next step here is these corner sections here. I made a simple little template, and I'm thinking of cutting it out of the hood in this section here. A little bit of damage here, but it's actually away back here. I've got plenty there, and it'll stay away from the damage on the hood. And then I'll be able to get the other side on that section of the hood there. Look, I know it's not exactly the same bend, but it's a start of a bend. you know what I mean. It's getting close there. I just got to tweak it a little bit more. So from the piece out of the hood here, I've come up with this piece here. And I just had to put a little bit more of a bend on it. So I just put it over my leg and gave it a bit more of a bend. I'm sure you've seen all that on other YouTube channels, so I'm not really going to show you. But then what I have to do here is trim it up. And you can see there my shape there. I'll trim that up. I'll keep it a little bit long on this side, but shorten it up all the way around there. And I'll do the same thing. I'll start from the center here and work my way all the way around. Well, this first corner's done. I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. The join through here, or the transition through here, is really good. The join here is really straight. And what I had to do is put it on, bend it through here and through here, and then put a little tack here and here. Because what it was doing is it was moving away from this join here. And as I'd done that, I just carefully bent it all the way around. I did have to put some little pie cuts in the sheet metal here and over here. And then as I bent it around again, just put a tack on the ends and then fold that around. It's turned out really well. Quite happy with it. And what I've got to do now is move on to the other side. So I've cut this piece out, bent it around my knee again, cut it to the right shape, and I'm going to do the same thing and get it on. There you have that all rolled around. I'm just going to put a few tacks around here, a few tacks down through here, maybe fix up this little cut here. And as you can see, it all lines up still really nice here. I'll grind up all of this here and make that look a little bit prettier. I'm thinking I'm not going to weld it through here and through there and through here. I'm thinking I might just use a bit of what we call Sikaflex. It's like a metal joining urethane. And I might just put it all in here, along here. Run a bead of it down through here and then smooth it off. I just don't want to warp this panel because it's turned out quite well. For the sake of a bit of Sikaflex through there, I think it might be a little bit better than welding it all up. There's one last thing I've got to do, and I've got to re-weld that little piece there in the corner. I'll get onto that now as well. It's going to sit like that. All right. What I'm going to do now is, like I said, just get some glue and some urethane, glue all these edges up, glue it all up underneath onto the frame. I've also got to make some plates here on the inside and make something for the back there to bolt it onto the roof. So what I've done here is put a whole heap of urethane on the frame. It's holding the skin on, and I know it looks like a mess, but I've pushed it in with my fingers just to make sure it went into the round bar. Now I haven't made my side mount here on either side, or nor have I made the rear one, but I'm not too fussed about that, because what I can do if I decide to weld it is just grind a little bit of it off and then tack weld it on. But what I'm thinking about doing is actually going straight through this section here. I'll put a couple of spacers, and even if I've got to make like an L bracket or something, it'll actually come off from the panel here. I may even do the same thing on the rear and run 2 bolts through here with a bracket coming off. When I get to that bit, I'll show you what I mean. For now, I'm going to put a little bit more urethane around here and up in here. So it's been a few hours and I've taken that clamp off the center there. It seems to have set quite nice underneath. And I've put a little bit on the top here as well. I've just skimmed that over with an old squeegee, decal squeegee. And I'm going to leave that sit for the night and see what it all looks like in the morning. So it's next day and I ground down a lot of this Sikaflex that I put on, the urethane. There was also a piece in the middle here, but it's still kind of flexed right through here. So I put some more tacks underneath here and I've made a little strip through the middle. I've Sikaflexed that on and right now I'm just going to put some pop rivets down it. And that should keep it from flexing in the middle. I mean, it's only ever so slight, but I think this will fix it. And I think it looks all right anyway. Right, so that's all done. That was pretty simple. Just some 3.2mm pop rivets through there, or 1/8 of an inch for those over on the other side of the pond. And I also put a band here and a band here. Now they're all Sikaflexed on as well, so they're not going anywhere. And over on this side, I've cleaned up all that Sikaflex. I just use a wire wheel on a drill and that looks a lot nicer. So it's going to sit on the truck somewhat like this. But what I've really got to get into now is designing some brackets. I really want to put something quite large through here and onto the roof because I don't want it flexing while I'm driving. I've also got to drill a hole through here and put some spacers. And as you can see, that's around about how high it'll sit off the roof. So it's off with the hood lining again. I'm going to have to take that middle section out, that section, and even the corner parts. Because I'm going to have to figure out exactly where these holes go right here. So I've got the shade placed on the truck around about where I want it, or close enough too. And what I want to do now is drill a few holes through here and into the turret. But unfortunately, there is some RHS in the way and I won't be able to do it. I have got all the trim out. So I'm in the process of making a couple of little brackets and they look like this. They are going to sit in here and follow the curve of the roof. I'll have a bolt through here and a bolt through the turret in a spot where there's nothing in the way. It'll go through around about here. Okay, here goes nothing. I've made these brackets, I've taped them on, I had that bolted on, unbolted it, have taken it off, and I'm going to drill some holes in the roof. There's one. All right, number two. Oh, I got that right. Obviously, I've got to make this hole a little bit bigger. Let's just chuck a step drill into it. And the other side's done. Always nervous drilling into a roof or anything like that. But it's done, the holes are done. Time to put these brackets on and mount it all up. Well, still got the middle one to do. But for now I can see how this is just going to sit under its own power. What do you call it? Yeah, bolts. Here we go. You know, I want to show you something here. And I've had some careful thought about this. As you can see there, there's actually a double skin. So I've made sure the bolts on both sides go through this double skin here, where there's a join through here and then a join across here. There's a strip that runs down here. That'll give it plenty of strength. But I'm also going to put the offcut of this, because it's the right curve, underneath it for more support. And before I do any of that, I'm just going to reassemble the whole thing again and make sure it all fits. Well, that's pretty cool. That's sitting there all by itself. Well, it's on the truck and it's looking great. I'm really liking it. And what I really like the most is where I've put these. But because I've put them here, it's allowing it to pivot. I can pivot it quite far down if I like. So I've made up a couple of brackets here, little pieces of plate. they're going to go like this, and then another one on the roof. I've got to just shape that to the right shape there. And I'm thinking I'm going to make this so if I want it down, I can. If I want it up, I can adjust it. I've made up a couple of cardboard templates as well. I mean, they won't be true to that shape, but that just gives me something to go on. And I'll be able to just run some bolts through here. And I'm hoping that'll work so I have some adjustability on it. Well, there's a piece there I just cut out of that template out of some 1/4 inch plate. So, yeah, I had to put some little holes here to cut that section out. But I'll file this and linish the rest of this up and make it look pretty. Nothing that a half round file can't fix. A little bit more of that and that'll be done. Well, there's that piece, all finished, ground up and fitting to the contour of the piece I made earlier. I think I'll get the TIG onto this one. So one of the last things I've got to do here is with this plate, put these like this, one on the other side, so that the contraption I made earlier can slide through it and be adjustable through these bolts. So I'm just making up something at the moment to get the gapping right. I'll bolt that all together, line it all up, and I'll TIG this up as well. Okay, this is all bolted together now and ready for welding. Well, as I was just about to weld it, I thought I probably should put a G-clamp on that just to make sure that it doesn't move. I mean, I've been on this, or I've been on these 2 brackets all day, so I don't want to wreck it. Or what I should say is I don't want to get it wrong and have these crooked. Well, now that that's all done, I've even put some of my Dulux rust paint on it. And right now I've put the catalyst on it to make it rust. We'll see how this turns out tomorrow. And if you want to see how this rust paint works, I'll leave a link in the description of one of my other videos where I do the whole cab. And so after I got them finished, I cleaned them up with some hydrochloric acid again, because I want these just to get that little bit of surface rust on them. And with that perfectly clean, that's going to work great. I mean, I'll give it maybe a week or 2 on the truck and they'll have a nice film of surface rust. Unlike the actual shade, of course, which is painted in that rust paint that I use. And it's actually coming up really nice. This has probably been about an hour so far and it's coming up really well. I just got to put a little bit more water on that just to keep it wet for a fair few hours. It'll look great once I've got this piece coming through here with the natural rust. And of course, when I paint this with some clear, it'll look even better. And if we quickly look over here, it's only been about 5 minutes since I put the hydrochloric acid on and then washed it off. And they're already starting to get a fine film of rust on them. Now, that'll look really good when they're on the truck. So this has been sitting here for about 2 hours now, and yeah, that's looking great. As you can see, that bit there's drying up. So I won't put any more water on it. I'll just leave it, let the whole thing dry. We'll see what it's like in the morning. Well, here we are, we're on our final stretch here. I have this all bolted up. And I've also got this bolted onto the visor as well, so time to get it on. So with the 3 positions, I can have it here, or here, or here. But I think I like it right in the middle. So I'm going to set it up right here. Well, it's all done and I've just come back from a drive. It's not moving at all. It seems to be really good. I'm really happy with it. What do you think? Tanya, what do you think? Well, that's a really long-winded video and I hope you all stayed. You saw the bad parts and the good parts, but it's all done and I'm really happy with it. I hope you can come and watch my next video and I'll catch us all on the next one. See yas!